Good morning and salutations. Just putting some cards away. Forgot to post them the last time. So I'm going to post them today. So I get them all put away first. Oh, how is everyone this morning? Hope you're feeling fabulous. Oh, I forgot to put the book in there. All right. What does God have to tell us today? Wipe the slate. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth into those things which are before, I press toward the mark. Philippians 3:13-14. Forget the past. It says forgive and forget. Remember only its glad days. Wipe the slate of your remembrance with love, which will erase all that is not confirmed in love. You must forget your failures and those of others. Wipe them out of the book of your remembrance. I did not die upon the cross for man to bear the burden of his sins himself, who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree. If you forget not the sins of others, and I bear them, then you add to my sorrows. As I told my son yesterday, we have to forgive those that we feel have harmed us. Because if not, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Unforgiveness just hurts ourselves. And when you forgive somebody, you don't bring it up later, because that's not true forgiveness. But you forgive them and you forget the sins that they have committed against you, just as God forgives you and forgets your sins. It says, judge not lest ye be judged, and forgive us our debtors, as we forgive those who trespass against us. So how do you expect to be forgiven for your sins if you can't even forgive your enemy? And yes, that even includes our exes. You know, we've been hurt by those that we've been the closest to, but in that unforgiveness, who else are we hurting? The children. Next, relationships. Even our friends. When we have unforgiveness in our heart for those in our past, or even currently in our lives today, that unforgiveness comes out and leaks out in other ways, directed at people that we may not want it to be directed at. So remember to forgive. Truly. True forgiveness includes that forgetfulness, the wiping the slate clean. God doesn't say, I love you and I forgive you, but only to a certain extent, because then I just, too many wrongs. No, God says, I forgive you, I love you, and I forgive you. And you say, but what about this one time? And he said, what are you talking about? This one time. I forgave you. There is no one time before. I forgave you. This is the first. And I forgive you again. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, Wolf? When your children, they keep messing up, you don't say, oh, I forgive you. But you screwed up one too many times. Here, hit the road, Jack. Don't come back. It's not what God does. It's not what we should do. November 8th, actors in a play. Can you believe the first week of November is already done? Crazy. Remember that you are an actor in a play, playing a character according to the will of the playwright. If a short play, then it's short. If long, long. If he wishes you to play the beggar, play even that role well, just as you would if it were a cripple, a honcho, or an everyday person. Hello, Sam. For this is your duty, to perform well the character assigned you. That selection belongs to another. Epictetus. So we are each given a role that we are supposed to play. Sometimes we have to play the beggar, sometimes we can play the head honcho, but we play our role to our best of our ability because that is what we're destined for. Marcus Aurelius didn't want to be an emperor. He wasn't a politician who sought office, and he wasn't a true heir to the throne. As far as we can tell from his letters and from history, what he really wanted was to be a philosopher. But the powerful elite in Rome, including the Emperor Hadrian, saw something in him. Groomed for power, Marcus was adopted and put in line for the throne because they knew he could handle it. Meanwhile, Epictetus lived much of his life as a slave and was persecuted for his philosophical teachings. Both did quite a lot with the roles they were assigned. Our station in life can be as random as a roll of the dice. Some of us are born into privilege, others into adversity. Sometimes we're just given exactly the opportunity we want. At other times, we're given a lucky break, but to us, it feels like a burden. The Stoics remind us that whatever happens to us today or over the course of our lives, wherever we fall on the intellectual, social, or physical spectra, our job is not to complain or bemoan our plight, but to be the best we can, to accept it and fulfill it. Is there still room for flexibility or ambition? Of course! The history of the stage is littered with stories of bit parts that turned into starring roles and indelible characters that were expanded in future adaptations. But even this begins with accepting and understanding and a desire to excel at what we have been assigned. At one point, I was a meager housekeeper making barely minimum wage. But I tried to make a difference. Every room I cleaned, I would station the radio station to K-Love, so that maybe if they listened to the radio, if they turned the alarm on and it turned on the radio, that they could be blessed with a good song for the spirit. And this morning I'm waking up singing my music. I get asked, how do you know so many Christian pop songs? Because I listened to it for a year. Because it helped fuel my spirit. And these positions that we're put in, they're for something great. Oh, I wanted to show you guys, in case you didn't catch the last stream. Check this beauty out. It's just a book, right? It's just a book. What's this? Let's flip it on. Let's turn it around. Look at that wonderland. Look at all the adventures we can have. Sitting here in the library. I know, right? There's so many of them. I went on Amazon last night and I started looking. They're like $50 a piece. I mean, you can get some that are cheap, like $20, but and I want a whole wall. They look like books, but they're not. And they all have their own little adventure stories. And can you imagine? All my hobbies would be on those. People get frustrated. I don't know how to do this. Oh, I know somebody who does a video on those. I can go look it up, see how she did it. Those are tricky. Some of those freaking things in there. There's no way you could follow the steps exactly as they tell you to follow those and get it right. I'm telling you, this in here, this shelf right here, this was so hard to put on without that piece. See, that piece they said put on after put on this piece. But without that piece, this would not have stayed up there to glue. And yeah, just if you follow the steps on these things, be careful, because You might get frustrated. So just read the book ahead. They always tell you in school, read your homework, read your assignment first, and then do it. Read it over and then do it. And then teachers would give, the tests that, and they would tell you, put your name on the paper, read it through, and then start your test. And there's this one test that teachers were giving out that was, write the name on the top, and they read through the whole thing, and at the very bottom it says, flip your paper over, you're done. And there were people who didn't follow the directions, and they did all the homework, or they did the whole test, and then at the bottom, tell them, don't answer any of the questions, flip it over, you're done. And they failed the test because all they had to do was listen. Seems to be the reoccurring theme last couple weeks. We don't listen. We don't listen to God. Our children don't listen to their parents. It's a horrible cycle. I'm not supposed to technically be using this one until next month, but I'm in a Christmassy feeling, It's Thanksgiving and my tree's already up. Because I'm so thankful. And if we have this weird little civil war or whatever's going on, I want my tree to be up. It's not like it's gonna die. It's a fake tree. I'm looking up something. Whoa. So remember last time we talked about the constellations and how the gospel was in the sky. Like the story of Jesus is in the sky. It says the theory of the gospel in the stars is that God actually named the brightest stars and major constellations long, long ago, back in the earliest generations of humanity. He did this to tell an important story. Stringing these constellations together, they foretell the message of the gospel. So let's see what it has to say. My Nana had a big book about it, and she wanted to give it to me or show it to me, but she couldn't find it while we were there. Just might not have been the right time to discuss it. But now it seems to be all right. For instance, Virgo represents the Virgin, who would give birth to the promised Messiah. Capricornus represents the goat of atonement, slain for the redeemed. The goats were slain. Orion represents Christ, the heavenly light of the world. Makes sense. Leo is the Lion of Judah, and so on. Under this theory, early human cultures understood that these original pictures in the sky, and then sometime after the flood, as sinful human beings spread all over the world, they attached their own names to the stars, and thus the pagan practices of astrology began. This theory became popular in the late 1800s. Miss Frances Ralston's book, Mazzaroth. That's the one Nana was talking about, Mazzaroth. Published in the 1860s. Oh, I need to write that down. Mazzaroth by Miss Frances Ralston in 1860s. Well, if you know anything about the 1860s, women publishing anything back then was very frowned upon, so I'm surprised. But she was the first to propose this theory, and Joseph Seiss, in the book The Gospel in the Stars, came about 20 years later. E.W. Bollinger's book, The Witness of the Stars, came at the last decade of the 19th century. This theory also has a number of modern proponents, probably the most famous being Dr. D. James Kennedy. The primary problem with the theory is that we simply cannot go back far enough in any historical record to find the original names of the constellations or stars. So where does the theory originate? Well, Siss and Bullinger credit Francis's book, Mazzaroth, as containing the original research for the theory. Unfortunately, Rolleston was not a very careful scholar when citing or scrutinizing her sources. She also makes some very bold and completely unprovable assumptions in her book, making it hard to substantiate her claims. She assumes that Hebrew, the language of most of the Old Testament, is the closest language to that of Adam, which, of course, we don't know. There's an older language called Aramaic that he may have been speaking. Based on this assumption, Rolleston looked at Latin star and constellation names, assuming Hebrew is the ancient origin for the Latin language. And when researching the Hebrew language for similar sounding words or homophones, to find what the original names might have been. So she went through Latin to find Hebrew roots. Rolleston also cites very few of her sources, making it hard to trace her steps. And when she does cite her sources, her citations are often vague and imprecious. She often ignores evidence that provides simpler or alternative explanations behind certain star or constellation names. She picks and chooses from the evidence that will best fit her theory. Sometimes that's kind of like what Christians do. They pick and choose what scriptures they want to believe and not believe. But of course, if we dig deeper, there's key to truth in all the books. It's hidden in there. Even Christ hid the truth in parables, so only the pure of heart would understand. And even his disciples did not understand the majority of his parables, and that's why you have these explanations of the parables in the Gospels. It's because even his own disciples could not decipher them. So testing this theory with Orion. Hey, that's my string. Yeah, you're just playful this morning, aren't you? Come on, I'm gonna tuck those. You can't play with my strings for my hat. So the example of Orion, it's a very well-known constellation, provides a good litmus test for the gospel and the stars theory. Let's look at how Frances Rolleston and others who followed her interpret this constellation. Orion is a constellation easily visible in the evening in December, January, March, and February. So let's see if we can find that star. Don't think we've gone through that one yet. Oh, here he is. Orion. Kind of looks like a robot. Oh, as we said in Orion in the Dark, it looks like a robot waiting to give you a hug. When actuality, they have him as a man with a sword and a shield. It says it contains some of the brightest stars in the night sky, and for this reason, many cultures around the world have stories associated with these stars. Visible from most of the world, this constellation has been interpreted by many cultures. The Greeks saw the demigod Orion, a giant, powerful hunter so handsome that goddesses squabbled over him. The Egyptians saw Osiris, god of light, which is the closest to what this Christian's theory is. The Bora Bora of Brazil saw an enormous caiman, and Maori of New Zealand saw a canoe. Special features are 5 of Orion's stars of the first magnitude or brighter. The supergiant Rigel, the 7th brightest star in Earth's sky, is 775 light-year distance and 40,000 times brighter than the sun, is in this constellation. Pulsating Betelgeuse is the 10th brightest and varies from 550 to 900 times the diameter of the sun. Also in this constellation, Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse. The Orion Nebula, visible to the naked eye, is one of the most brilliant. And some 30 light years across, it is an enormous region of interstellar gas and dust centered on a dense stellar cluster. The nebula is an active nursery for the birth of stars, and a magnified view is exquisite. So, first, Rollenstein says the Latin name Orion, which is what we just learned the Greeks called him, is based on this constellation's Akkadian name, which means light of heaven. This, in fact, may be accurate. The Egyptians called it Osiris, god of light. Rolliston says this uses this as a basis to claim Orion was originally meant to be a symbol of the promised Messiah, based on Matthew 4:16. The people dwelled in the darkness have seen a great light. Well, I think that the Egyptian language would probably be closer to Hebrew or Aramaic than Latin. I mean, let's see. Hebrews were down in this area. Latin is like Spain and stuff. That's way up here. But the Egyptians were down here too. So I think she should have looked a little closer and did a little bit more research. Don't think she was an anthropologist. Second, Rolliston claims that while most Greek stories of Orion speak of his foot resting on a rabbit, in one ancient Indian star chart, Orion's foot is stepping on a snake. Based on this, Rolliston says this further confirms this constellation as a picture of Christ, who was prophesied in Genesis to be the one who would come to crush the head of the satanic serpent. Third, Rolliston says in certain mythologies, Orion is stung on the foot by a scorpion, Scorpio, bringing about his death, further confirming this constellation's link to Genesis 3:15, where God states that the serpent, you shall bruise his heel. That was a scorpion. And it's true. Scorpio chases after Orion in the sky. And when you see Scorpio come up, Orion goes down, and vice versa. When Orion comes into the sky, Scorpio leaves. We just read that a few days ago, or a few cards ago, the Scorpio card. However, there are several major problems with Rolliston's evidence. Rolliston makes a tremendous leap in evidence, suggesting that Akkadian name for Orion must reflect the name of God or Adam or some other primordial person gave the constellation. Why single out the Akkadian name among all other languages? Well, as we went down the Egyptian trail, they called him Osiris, which was the god of light. So I don't think she's very far off, people. Why assume the Akkadian name is based on a primordial Hebrew name and then further presume that it is God who inspired this name? They said that she cherry picks the stories. She dismisses the stories about Orion stepping on a rabbit without any warrant. I've never heard that story of him stepping on a rabbit. I've heard the stories of the serpent and the scorpion and, reading from these stars. So she unjustifiably mixes imagery. Liking Orion's death by scorpion stinging is hardly the same as being harmed by a scorpion or a serpent. That did seem a little bit of a stretch, but people do relate them, scorpions and serpents, because they're just, I don't know, scary creatures, I guess. I mean, if you look at the Bad Guys movie and book series that's for kids, they have a snake in there and they have a scorpion in there, so who knows? But they're not actually bad. Most importantly, her interpretation completely runs contrary to both the Bible and Jewish tradition. Let's see what this says. The constellation Orion is mentioned in the Bible at least 3 times. Job 9:9, Job 38:31, and Amos 5:8, using the Hebrew name Kasil, meaning fool. This is derived from the same word used in Proverbs nearly 50 times to describe a foolish person. This aligns nicely with the Babylonian tradition that identifies the constellation Orion with the character Nimrod, the godless founder of Babel. In other words, if there was a primordial divine name for Orion, not only do the scriptures not mention this name, they assign a completely different name to it, the Fool. a name very unbecoming for the Messiah, unless you go down the tarot route. The tarot route tells us, let me pull out a deck, says that the fool comes before the magician. The fool has all the tools the magician has, but he has yet to start his journey. The fool is 0. The magician comes next. And then the priestess and the priest. Or, yes, the priestess, the emperor, empress, and the high priest. But anyway, the fool and then the magician. So it's not really that far off. We trace all these different things. We connect them all. They're all connected, folks. Even if Orion was the fool, it does not mean that he could not be the Messiah either, because the Messiah was representative of man. And man is foolish. Not saying Christ was foolish, but we all begin as a fool. We use our tools and we learn. We go into the wilderness as Christ did. Come back the Messiah, ready to save. Being tested, tried. Does not go much deeper into that. Maybe I can find another one. Where this was? Yes. There's a sermon notes. Joseph Prince did a sermon on it. Let's see what he has to say. There's a lot in here, but I don't see any references to the constellations. He's just downgrading. He's just saying that, astrology is bad and whatnot, and the stars don't have heart for you. Hello, Pug News. I don't know how to say your name, so I'm just calling you Pug. He says the stars don't have heart for you, the creator of the stars do. Yes, I agree with that. But we're trying to figure out the story. Because in Psalms 19 it says, the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament shows his handiwork. Of course it does. So, it gives me this cool little circular that it tells a story every year. Now, here we go. Where are they? Oh, and it was talking about Orion. All right. The real story in the stars. The first time the Lord spoke directly to Job is recorded in chapter 38, where he mentions that the morning stars sang together in verse 7. And then in verses 31 and 32, God asked him, "Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades?" Those are stars. "Can you loosen Orion's belt? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cub?" He's talking about Ursa Major and Ursa Minor there. He's speaking here of the constellations, the 7 stars of the Pleiades, and the constellations of Orion and the bear. The word for constellation in Hebrew is Mazaroth, which means zodiac. Again, this is not astrology. It is the original story as God created it in order to tell the marvelous story of Son to all generations. Quite literally blasted the story of redemption from one end of the heavens to the other. So, it begins with Virgo, the Virgin. Look back into the history of the constellations, you'll find that the ancient depictions of this star grouping have her sitting down with a small male child on her lap as pictured above. Look at this picture. That is Virgo. She also held a stalk of both wheat and corn in one hand. They say that Jesus is a small child on her lap. He is the bread of life. He is the grain of wheat, which when it falls into the earth, it dies, typifying his death, which would bring salvation to the world. Since the story begins with Virgo, then it must end with Leo, the lion. Matthew is the first book of the New Testament. It is the first to recount the virgin birth of our Messiah. Revelation, the last book of the New Testament, is where Jesus is first called the Lion of the tribe of Judah. It's just not talking about all the other constellations in between. This is what's so upsetting. You try to find this information, and it's not becoming. Why 12 constellations? Well, if you think about it, Jesus had 12 disciples, right? As above, so below. 12 constellations for the 12 sons of Jacob, the 12 tribes of Judah. 12 signs, 12 tribes of Judah, 12 disciples. The tribe of Levi, for example, was charged with the balances of the sanctuary, hence Libra typifies them. Libra represents the tribe of Levi. And Judah, no surprise, is the lion. And then it goes into, why did God confuse the language of men? Well, why did he? Because they built the Tower of Babel thinking that they could get directly to God. And they cover that in this series too. I'm going to actually share this link. If anybody would like to read the whole article, I'm going to share it on my Discord, which you can find below. It's still not what my Nana wanted to share with me, but it's a start. Not quite exactly what I'm looking for either, but again, it's a start. Well, if you're going to look for it, it'll be in the general chat, I guess. I should add another one too. And they're getting educated. Foil! Interesting facts. Oh, interesting info. That's what I'll put it under. So if you're looking for it, that's where you can find it. Oh yes, I know. It's the DIY book nook kits. That's what I want. Tired. Oh, they're playing Cult of the Lamb again. I should. Don't know if I'll be getting any game time. I mean, you get a snippet of game time in here before the kids show up. It is about Jesus and whatnot. My belly's doing the hollowness of black hole. Black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the pain? Black hole sun, won't you come? Won't you come? I know, I'm being silly. I'll just let you be. I just let you be, Wolfie. Hey, Wolfie. My little wolf boy. Smell rice. Rice, bitch. You smell rice. It was cute. All my cats were on me this morning. 5:30 in the morning. Each one of them trying to give me love. Oh yeah, I remember. We're headed back to the town. To the village. I collected a whole bunch of stuff. I don't have room anymore for nothing else. Leather shirt. It's great. I don't need a leather shirt, do I? Which one? Leather vest. Ah, village. I want to travel to the harbor yet. They were mean to me last time. Very, very mean. I have chicken soup. Run! Hungry? Eat some food. Some more. Drink some water. I know you're thirsty. Awesome. See what you got. What do I have for you? Nothing. Nothing for you. What is that? Oh! I found one! I just got that mission. Did I not? I apparently did not get that one yet. Alright. Well, that's cool. Nothing for you. What do I have for you? Linen. Oh, I did have something for her. Please find mine. For you, madam. Please. You can make some fine leather, I suppose. For you, my dear. Thanks. This. Yep. here. Close the Please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Wolf. Food. Bones. Sugar. Smoked meat. Here. Go to weapon storage. Oh, knowledge. Relics. Put that down. I can hear my cat snoring. Take these spikes. Take take this wood. We can make just a bunch of planks over here. Go to the construction site. Thanks. Yes. No, wait. Yep. Oh, thanks. Look at how far along my ship's come. Don't have 40? Oh, a few short. Let's make those real quick. Oak. Damn it! Getting sick. Getting dizzy. Let's try to find some oak wood. Oak. Just what I needed. Thank you. Take these flowers while I'm at it. Didn't really even have to go too far. Planting seeds as we go along, always recropping land which we taking up. Gotta keep it growing strong, gotta keep it going strong. Need it for my fabric, yeah, I need it for my fabric, yeah. Fabricating fabrics. Distribute my seeds. Just like to mix the seeds up sometimes. See? Seeds. Magic. Silk? Maybe this is what it is. Silk fancy. at the Seed Depot. Wunderbar. Soup. Granted. Just really organize it more. There we go. No complaints. Nails. Alright folks, just a moment please. Oh, they're here. Yay! Come in! It's open! Peace be with you. Blessings unto you.